Hello and welcome to Decision Makers. I'm Cisco Cotto with Audacy's all-news station in Chicago, WBBM.
And I'm Carol Massar, Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio. Bloomberg Radio networks provide business reports for Audacy's radio stations.
Carol, it's wonderful to be with you on Decision Makers. I'm really excited about our guest today.
Yeah, me as well, Cisco, and looking forward to our conversation. Our Decision Makers, the series gives you a front row seat and a behind the scenes peek into some of the most well-known consumer brands in the country and the executives who run them. And today's decision maker is Jerome Griffith. He is the CEO of Land's End. Land's End is an American clothing and home decor business based in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. You know the brand, you know the company. Jerome, welcome to Decision Makers.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, let's talk about the business. You guys recently recorded a quarterly update. You gave some outlook. There was initially a little bit of disappointment among investors. How are things going? What's the outlook for the business? How's the consumer doing?
If you look at 2021, it was really a great year for the company. Overall, we had a good increase in revenue to the point where it's our best year since 2011. We've had our best earnings year since 2014, which was when we were spun off from Sears as a public company. So we felt really good about where the year ended up. What we saw, though, is high consumer demand in the earlier part of 2021 and a little bit less in the back half due to supply chain constraints. You had product that was on vessels between the manufacturing country and getting into port, or was on rail lines between port and getting to the warehouses. That was very slow and unpredictable. Additionally, you saw a lot of additional costs involved in getting product from point A to point B. So as we came out of 2021, we see a lot of positive things, though, still with the company. We laid out what the next 5 years look like for us and came out at the ICR conference with our 5-year plan. We're really looking at a 10% CAGR over the course of the next 5 years, top line. And from a bottom line standpoint, moving from about $1 a share to about $5 per share. So we're feeling pretty bullish about where the company is set up. We've got a lot of new revenue streams. Up until just a few years ago, you could only buy us at landsend.com or at Sears. Today, we're on Amazon. We're in Kohl's stores. We're on Kohls.com. We're starting on QVC. We still have our own website. We have some of our own stores. So we're continuing to expand distribution for the brand and making it more available to consumers. So we're feeling relatively good. There are some short-term issues, though. Coming into 2022, you still have the supply chain issues going on. You still have inflation now, beyond just the increased cost of containers, but the increased cost of everything, particularly energy. Having said that, we think that the back half of 2022 does leave a lot of room open, a lot of upside opportunity.
Let's talk about the supply chain. You mentioned that. Given the fact that so much of your business is online, does that make the supply chain issues maybe not as difficult? I'm thinking you don't have to get things on trucks and to bricks and mortar as much as some others.
It makes it easier in many respects. However, getting the product from wherever it's manufactured to our warehouses in Wisconsin is an issue that I think a lot of people have the same issue. But the positive side is we don't have a lot of inventory tied up in stores. We don't have a lot of distribution, smaller parts of distribution from the warehouse to the store to the customer. So it does make it somewhat easier.
Hey, Jerome, I do wonder, too, because of the new COVID shutdowns that we've seen in China. Now, I know you guys do a lot of manufacturing over in Vietnam, but has that impacted or further made it more difficult when it comes to supply chain problems?
We did. The Vietnam shutdown for 2.5 months definitely impacted our fourth quarter of last year. But what we've seen, and we kind of embarked on this strategy a few years ago, we didn't want to be too tied into any one country. So our rules are we don't want to have any country which represents more than 20% of our manufacturing. And we're at that point today. We're very well diversified. Most of our, I think that it's 12 countries are our top 95% of production. So we're relatively well diversified. And I think that from that standpoint, you run the risk of some closures still out there. Like, for example, Shenzhen's closed and locked down now.
Right.
Shanghai is closed and locked down in China. But as we've divested ourselves more from China and we've sort of spread out the risk, it makes it a lot easier for us to cover that risk.
How do you plan for, there's uncertainties obviously in the supply chain, but how do you plan for uncertainties when it comes to the pandemic? Things seem fairly okay here in the States now, but we just don't know what the next year is going to hold.
It's been interesting. The guys that I work with at the company have been extremely resilient over the course of the last couple of years. It was just last week, 2 years ago, where everybody said, okay, we have to do everything remote now. So we went from designing and fitting product in studios to doing it via computer programs or via Teams. They've done a phenomenal job. And I think what people have seen over the course of the last couple of years is you have to stay flexible, and you have to be flexible for anything that's going to come at you. And, in my 40 plus years working in the business, I haven't seen so much volatility as I have in the last couple of years, and you've got to be ready for it.
Well, and it's interesting. I do think we all felt like we were coming out of the pandemic. What has the pandemic taught you, Jerome, that is staying with you as a leader and also strategy for the company going forward?
Trust your people. Our guys have done a phenomenally good job working in a hybrid environment or from home. We've started in the last few months to bring people back into the office 2 or 3 days a week. And we have what's called collaboration week. So we have a week every month where everyone comes into the office, and all those things that you need to do or really want to do face to face, you can. People are reacting extremely well to it. I think our employees like the flexibility, like that we trust them. We also see that they're very efficient and very effective working on a remote basis because they can do it on their own time. And they're very appreciative of that. So I think it's important for you to really trust your employees and talk a lot. You used to do a lot in person and have a lot of big meetings. I do a lot of stuff on my computer now. So I've got glasses. So I've got to watch, my eyesight on these things. But you spend the whole day talking to folks and influencing people and reading numbers, and you're able to do it. And I think what you're really seeing is, a wholesale change of how people work. 5 years ago, you wouldn't have thought this because the technology might not have completely been there. 2 years ago, the technology was there, but it's like, I'm not so sure that we trust our people. But now, absolutely, you feel really good about how your people are working and what they're getting accomplished.
Talk about the difference in, as a leader, motivating your staff and encouraging people, because it's very different when you're remote.
It is. It's probably one of the things that we think about the most, that along with the fact that you have a lot of new employees that come in every year, kids that are out of school, people that are in their second year of working. And your ability to understand the culture of the company is something that we're very concerned about. What they've asked for is they want interaction. They want FaceTime with the folks at the organization. And that's what these collaboration weeks are all about. And to be honest with you, I'm sure we'll continue to hone what our strategy is and make small adjustments over the course of the first year of doing this. I think, we'll go in with good intentions, and then you'll find out what the issues are, and you'll have issues. What they'll be, sometimes you don't know, but you have to be very cognizant of it and very cognizant of people do need FaceTime and people do need that human interaction. And at the same time, they want to have flexibility. So if they need to work on a big project and not be disturbed all day, they can go down to their office or basement or wherever they're going to do it and get the work done.
So, Jerome, I want to ask you, about when you came to the company, and I'm just going to reference, there was something written in a retail trade journal back in 2016, and they described Lands' End this way. Lands' End has rarely been a company that creates a lot of buzz. In fact, for years, the company was best known for sensible, if stodgy, apparel and bland yet practical accessories and home furnishings that barely made any waves at all. That was 6 years ago. You came to the company shortly thereafter. Tell us about coming to the company. Was it a little stodgy? Why did you want to be part of this? I mean, your background is all retail. You've been at some really interesting companies, Esprit, Tommy Hilfiger. What was it about the brand that, really appealed to you?
One of the things I've tried to do is work at great companies and places that have really great brand names. And what it seems is that I've ended up doing over the course of the years is going to these companies either where they have divisions that aren't working well or the company's not working well. I remember when I took over Toomey in the 2008, it was really at the height of the crisis, and the company was valued at next to nothing. So it's fun working someplace where you actually have an affinity for the product and you actually like it. And one of the things that I wanted to do is make it, a fun place to work where you have really great product, because the consumer is so loyal. Our average customer on our database stays with us for 17 years. So they like what they're buying, and it's a very good value for them. But you wanted to give the customer what it is that they want. I think I when I came into the company, they had gone on a foray to try and attract a new or a different type of customer, and it really didn't work. So, we got a group of designers together, and they all talked about loving your customer and designing for your customer. And as we were coming out of 2018 and into 2019, I said, we've got to do a better job of elevating our marketing and elevating the brand. What's something that we can really grip onto and make sure that what our message is something that the customer sees us for? And in talking about the customer or talking to the customer, we found that they really care about comfort the most. Does it fit and is it comfortable? So we came up with a slogan, let's get comfy. And we launched that in 2019. And you can imagine as you come out of 2019 and into the pandemic in the beginning of 2020.
Talk about timing, right? Talk about timing that you guys were already doing that.
Better to be lucky than smart. And, it just hit at the right time. And comfort's been, a big thing for us. And we're not really walking away from it. I know people aren't buying sweatpants like they used to, and not buying sweatshirts like they did. But regardless of what they're doing, they still want to be comfortable. And we think the casualization of the workforce is something that is definitely continuing. Probably 5 years, anybody in my position would come on the show in a suit and tie. And that's just not how people are dressing today. They want to have comfort. They want to work when they need to work. They want to do it on their own time. They want to have a comfortable lifestyle, and that extends from work to home.
Yeah, you say better lucky than good. I mean, there's so much planning that goes into this, from the design to the manufacture. I mean, to be ready for this well and ahead of time, it really is a stroke of luck. And yet, do you feel it positions you best as people are continuing to want that comfortable clothing, whether it's in the workplace or working from home?
I've got to tell you, when this happened, we were in the middle of designing a line. Now, that's very, tactile and hands-on. And our design group had to, in a matter of a couple of months, go from doing everything in person to everything online. Now, luckily, we had already bought a 3D design program where we were implementing, and the implementation period was going to be over a year. Got it done in a couple of months. And one of the things you would worry about is your ability to fit and make sure that the fit is good. The guys did a phenomenal job doing it online. And today, I don't know if you know what TrueFit is, but TrueFit's an online fit app that many websites have on it. We're the #1 ranked fit for customers 55 to 64, and we're #6 overall in their whole portfolio. So we spend a lot of time making sure that people are going to be comfortable and they're going to be consistent fits with the product that they're buying, so they understand really what the brand's going to give them.
Which is so important, because I do a lot of stuff online, and it really frustrates me when the sizing is like all over the place. I want to ask you, Jerome, who is the Lands' End customer? You talk about customers being really loyal. So who is the Lands' End customer today? And I'm curious, which of the demos are you seeing the most growth?
Our customer today is either a baby boomer or a Gen Xer. She's female. She lives in suburbia. She has kids. The kids still live with her. They have a relatively affluent income, over 100 grand, over 110 grand. But they're very frugal, and they're cautious about how they spend. They work. They are very tech savvy. Most of our traffic is done on a mobile phone. A lot of our business is done on a mobile phone, and they're prudent with how they spend their money. So they're very cautious about who's going to get their consumer dollars. They are very loyal. And what we're seeing is that our new customer is that Gen Xer. They're not in their 50s, they're in their 40s, but their demographics are all the same. It's, again, they live in suburbia, they're working, they're married, they have kids. And their idea of working out isn't necessarily going to the gym and pounding out for 2 hours. Their idea of working out is being active and living an active lifestyle. And, one of the things that they want to do is they want to feel comfortable in everything that they're doing. And we just love that customer. In fact, she's buying all of her husband's clothes. We've got about 2/3 of everything we sell for men is actually bought by women for their husbands. So they're big influencers as well in the family.
Well, I'd imagine it's probably their children too, right? That there's that natural, hey, if it works for me and if it works for the husband, it works for the kids too.
But a lot of it with kids, they know us from school uniforms. We have a pretty large school uniform business. And, many people that I meet is like, oh, Lands' End, I know that. I had your school uniforms when I was a kid.
Oh, I bought a few school uniforms from you guys, definitely over the years. Hey, does brick and mortar matter anymore? I mean, you guys are, most of what you do, right? Your revenues are e-commerce, but you do have a few stores. Does it matter anymore? And if it does, do you plan to expand it at all?
It does. What we've actually found is that our online business with Kohl's has gotten better as we expand in Kohl's. So we started out with 150 stores with Kohl's a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. Then this year we moved to 300 stores. By the back part of this year, we'll be at 500 stores. And then we're adding on swimwear in warm weather areas. So it'll be, I think, well over 600 stores by the time we finish this year. What we're seeing is as we add stores, our online business gets better.
Wow.
So it's more, you're relevant because you're there. With our own stores, while business is coming back, it's not back to the levels that it was in 2019 from a traffic standpoint. So we're keeping a really close eye on what the traffic looks like in stores. But I can say with third party, it's working very well.
Yeah, you mentioned True Fit and how well the clothes fit. Does that help people feel more comfortable if they don't necessarily want to go to bricks and mortar, ordering online, feeling as though they're not going to have to keep returning things and that they're going to get what they want?
Not only that, we have very low return rates for the industry, and we're very proud of that. And it's one of the things we track on a regular basis is not just what's the product going out, but what's the product coming back, and are we continuing to ratchet those return rates down? And we again, the technical team that does all of our fitting has done a phenomenally good job.
So you do have so many different ways that consumers can buy, Jerome, Land's End products. You mentioned Kohl's, there's QVC, there's obviously your direct website. You've also got your third-party marketplaces, you've got Land's End Marketplace. What's the biggest growth area for you guys?
It'll be two over the course of the next 5 years. One's going to be third-party. So I mentioned we're at Amazon, Kohl's, and QVC right now. Internationally, we're in Zalando, we're in About You, we're in Auto Group. And we'll continue to expand. We expect to open another one or two third-party suppliers this year, and probably one or two each year for the next few years. There's that much opportunity out there. And what we're surprised by and very happy about is that there's a really big demand for Land's End product. One of the things that I think will also complement that is going to be our organic growth. So if you look at what the third party growth looks like over 5 years, or our organic growth on our own websites is just about the same size. And then beyond that, what we've done with our uniform business, which we call Land's End Outfitters, we have a percentage of that, which is small and medium-sized businesses, which could be anything from like the local gas station up to, a multi-state brand that has uniforms. We've made our website experience a lot more easy to shop. You can bring your logo online. You can place your logo on whatever products you want. We're radically expanding the product catalog that we have this year, and early results look quite good for us, and that'll probably be our third largest growth vehicle over the course of the next few years.
Let's talk about a possible threat. You talked about inflation earlier and how it relates to your costs. But what about consumer demand being impacted by seeming like just about everything is more expensive for the consumer and they don't have the buying power they had?
What I think you're seeing is, the consumers are all getting raises. We've done, even for our own people last year, we did a couple of raises. We're going to do something else again this year because of the inflation. So you're wanting to help them combat the effect on their wallet. But I think you're right in the sense that our customer is always concerned about what prices are, what consumer prices are out there. Energy is a big one, obviously, but I think also food and groceries is going to be important to them. So it'll be interesting to see how we manage what that inflation number looks like throughout the course of the year. We haven't seen major changes yet, but it has started to get choppy.
In terms of the home business, I'm also curious. I mean, what kind of growth are you seeing there? I mean, that's one thing during the pandemic, right? Everybody was either spending on their pets or their home. What are you guys seeing as you expand into that area?
We've been really pleased with our owned home business, which is generally around bedding and around towels, or what we call bath. And bedding and bath have done extremely well over the course of the last year. What we've done with our own third-party marketplace is we've added on other manufacturers of goods that work for the home, but that we don't really own or distribute. So tableware, plates, napkins, dishcloths, furniture, indoor furniture, outdoor furniture, things like that, which we don't carry. We now offer on the website. So it gives a much bigger home assortment to the ultimate consumer. And they've really, on our marketplace, they've really gravitated towards home and shoes are the two things that we've added on a lot of product, and they're gravitating towards. So I would say we're getting to the point where I'm getting much happier with where our home penetration is. Early on, I turned my kids on to our sheets and towels. And, normally they're like, oh, Dad, okay, whatever. They were very pleased with the quality of it. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, my friend Susie wants to buy this. My friend Ruth wants to buy this. And you see once the people try the product, it's like, wow, this is really good. And it's really a great value. So
quality matters with sheets and towels. I'm just going to say they're not all the same. Cisco, we know this, right?
That's absolutely.
I'm happy I could win over some millennials and bring them into the brand. It was good, and that my kids are out there actually stopping for us.
Well, that's where the brand, I think, is so important in managing that. And talk about how you do this, because it is a brand that's been around for many decades. Some people, the quote that Carol had earlier, it was once thought to be stodgy, and yet you need to continue to have a brand that people trust and respect, and it's been around for a long time, while also allowing those younger people to say, hey, I can be a part of this too.
You have to evolve your brand over the course of years. We're going to be 60 years old next year. There aren't a lot of 60-year-old apparel brands out there. It started out not as an apparel brand. It started out as a yacht supply company with one store in Chicago that over the course of the first 10 years sort of morphed into a clothing and catalog company. I think one of the things that's important for us is to continually evolve exactly what the brand is. You can't stay stagnant, because if you stay, you're either getting better or you're getting worse, but you're never really staying the same. And let's be honest, the competition is fierce in our industry. It's a very tough industry in order to perform well. Yet when you perform well, you throw off a lot of cash, and you have the opportunity to continue to expand your business in multiple ways. One of the things that, for us as an example was, in what channels do you sell? We used to just sell online. Well, now we sell in multiple channels, and we've got a lot of opportunity out there. So, you have to think of, how's your customer living? How are they shopping? Where do they shop? How are you relevant to them? Are you in front of them when they're out shopping and spending their dollars? And I think the Kohl's partnership was a really great eye opener for us. Of course, people are shopping on Amazon. Yeah, okay, I get that. But with Kohl's, it's like, they have a very large customer base with a lot of crossover demographics. And as they see our brand, we therefore become more relevant.
Well, you talk about relevancy, and I do wonder too, Jerome, and I know we've talked about this before in the past, like Reese Witherspoon's brand, Draper James. How much is that all about, just kind of generating a little bit of buzz around the brand, or does it really move the top and bottom line?
No, listen, it was profitable for us, but it's not huge. It makes it cool. And the cool factor is something that you can't really put your finger on. If you go back to collaborations years ago, when H&M did their first collaboration with Karl Lagerfeld, everything sold out in a couple of hours. Why? Because it's taking a great brand with another great brand, putting them together, and it makes something special. Think of all the people that want to partner up with Supreme, and the specialness that you get from Supreme. I think Burberry was the last one that had people around the block last week wanting to buy the product. You take something that's relevant to your consumer that you don't sell, marry it up with your brand, and you become even more relevant.
You talked about the importance of being, the coolness factor, the hip factor. You also have to really know your consumer, and you perfectly described your consumer earlier. You also collect a lot of data, like every company does. Talk about how you're able to do that, to be able to really know exactly what your customer wants, and your online presence really helps you do that.
We talk to our customer a lot. Yes, you're right. We collect a lot of data on the consumer who buys from us, but we also see, what are they looking at? What did they like? What did they not like? What went into the cart that they didn't buy? What did they take in the cart and pull out? So you have lots of data at your fingertips. The key is on how you interpret the data, and do you actually use it in making decisions? One of the things that we've done at the company over the course of the last 5 years is make sure that we make data-driven decisions. We try and stay away from I like or I think, because you don't need to like or think. You can actually look at the data, and it sort of tells you what your customer's thinking. And you use that data for insights into, how much product do I make? In what categories do I make product? What about sizing? Years ago, we only carried regular sizes. Then we added plus, then we added petite, then we added petite plus, then we added big, then we added tall. Then all of a sudden, it's all about inclusivity. So, you're understanding that your customer is, they're not looking for some 23-year-old size 4 model on the cover, because that's not who your customer is and that's not how they live. But they want to feel comfortable and they want to make sure that they look good when they go out, and they want to be, on trend. But our customer's not really looking to Milan for what the latest trends are, but our customer wants to be on trend and make sure that they're comfortable in that trend. So the whole area of diversity has been a big unlock for us over the course of the last few years, because bringing in more customers and making those customers feel very comfortable with the brand has been a big priority for us.
So got to ask you, and I ask this a lot of leaders, certainly of publicly held companies, Jerome, but the stock price. I think when you took over, it was about $24 a share. It's been a little bit below that. I do wonder, I know a lot of C-suite says we don't watch it, but it is the ultimate scorecard, right? For a publicly held company. How do you see it? How do you think it reflects what you are doing at Land's End, or doesn't reflect perhaps?
A couple of things. We watch a few things. We watch revenue. What's that look like? We watch profitability. That's been growing every year for the past 5 years. But we do also watch stock price. I mean, when I was announced as running the company, we were at $15 a share. When I joined a few months later, we were at $18 a share. We were as low as $5 a share in the last couple of years, and that was because of COVID. And just 6 months ago, we were at $42 or $44 a share. So, and the whole industry has been re-rated down based upon what's happened with all of the surges of COVID, and then all of the increases of pricing and the lateness of supply chain. So in some cases, you're riding the waves. And I've been running public companies for 13 years now, 14 years now. And you see inadequacies or inconsistencies in share price. I would tell you today we're very undervalued for the value unlock that we have, for the size of company that we are, for the amount of profitability that we have, but not just that, for what the future looks like. And that's really what traders are looking at. Is it's not what you've done. It's great what we've done, but they're looking at what's your future look like? What do we think's going to happen? And how are we getting paid for that? So it's something that we watch, but I'll be honest with you, you got to run the day to day and make sure that your top line and your bottom line are working consistently. And over the course of time, people will pay you for that. What I'm surprised at is people don't realize we're almost 60 years old. We're a profitable company that's mostly e-commerce. That you don't see a lot of those.
Based in Dodgeville, Wisconsin, just up the road from us here in Chicago, a few thousand people. There's got to at times be pressure to move the headquarters to a big city, and yet you don't. Talk about the advantages of keeping your headquarters there.
Hybrid work environment's really been an unlock for us. We used to have difficulty getting certain jobs or certain talents to move to Wisconsin. One of the tactics that we use in the past is look for people that are University of Wisconsin grads, because they generally loved the college environment. And many people, when you talk to them about an opportunity in Wisconsin, would be like, oh yes, I want to come there and I want to move back because it's a good standard of living. In fact, in Madison, it's actually hard to find a house. It's really a growing area, and it's very desirable and with a not high cost of living. But when it came around with COVID and everyone had to be hybrid, all of a sudden, if you said, well, can I be there a couple days a week, or can I be there, a week, a month? People were like, wow, that's a great idea. And all of a sudden you have an unlock to other talents that you might not have been able to get before. So I would say that's going to be a strategy for us in the future and how we're recruiting folks. I think the bigger thing that's a concern is our unemployment rate in Wisconsin is very low. And we have, 3 big facilities in Dodgeville, Reedsburg, and Stevens Point, which, we're big employers in Southern Wisconsin, and our ability to attract and retain folks when the workforce is, everybody's working, and there's people that have left the workforce, whether it's time to retire, or there's been a lot of women leave the workforce as well because of issues with schools and children. That's hard to make up for. So that's something that we're thinking about right now.
Jerome, are you having trouble getting all the workers you want then?
We've had some issues getting everybody that we would like to have. And what we've done is just outsource it to third parties. And that's mostly so far on our embroidery, what we call value-added services, embroidery and heat printing and hemming of pants. of which we've been able to pick up, other partners to work with so that we're able to meet the consumer demand.
Yeah.
Well, to wrap up, I think we just wanted to ask you just what's the biggest challenge going forward in an environment where supply chains are stressed, higher pricing, workers cost more. It's a difficult time. I don't need to tell you all of the kind of run list on that. So what is the biggest challenge going forward?
I think the most important thing that we should really be doing is keeping all of our people motivated. It's tough out there. If you sit and listen to the news day in, day out, there's a lot of things that are, all new and very difficult to manage and that are uncertain. I think, you want to keep your eye on the ball. You want to make sure that all your people feel comfortable about what's going on at the organization and they understand what direction we're going in. And you know what, if you have to pivot, if you have to change direction, okay, then you have to change direction. But you're in some cases you are preempting what's going on in the market because you're making a guess about these are the things I should be doing, and you're right. And in some cases, things happen that you weren't able to predict, and you have to adjust to that. Having a company that understands that you need to stay nimble, don't get stuck in your ways, particularly for a 60-year-old company, don't get stuck in your ways. Make sure that you are flexible and able to pivot when the time comes.
Did you use the word stodgy? No, you didn't use the word stodgy.
No, I didn't say stodgy.
We're going to leave it there. Do you have a favorite Land's End product, though, before we leave?
I'm wearing it. The Super Soft Supima turtleneck. It's they're great. I've got a stack like this.
My wife is a swimmer. I was told to thank you for your swimwear. So
you know that we're the #1 search swimwear brand on Google. It's pretty. The guys have done a great job. And again, it's about being comfortable and feeling comfortable in the product. And our guys have done a really good job of growing that business. It's one of 2 or 3 really large businesses that we stand for: that, outerwear, and knitwear.
Jerome Griffith, CEO of Land's End. Great conversation. Appreciate you being with us on Decision Makers.
Nice to see you guys. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Decision Makers is a joint production of the Audacy and Bloomberg radio networks at WBBM Newsradio in Chicago. I'm Cisco Cotto.
And I'm Carol Massar at Bloomberg at New York headquarters. Thanks for joining us again, Jerome. This is Decision Makers.